All right, y'all, let's get into the Vision Pro that came out on Apple, the John, the sign of his coming, schizophrenics, and these types of things a little bit. So when you go back and read about John, and J is the H, the jalapeno, okay? So John is Han, on, and so these people look like they kind of got schizophrenia, all right, and a little bit of such. So the things of the carnal kind of show us the things of the heavens that are the invisible. Schizophrenics, people of that nature that see or hear voices, is generally hearing voices. The seeing is a very severe form of schizophrenia. I used to have a client that used to work with schizophrenics and such, and that's the way I have knowledge on this. And he was also this manager for the stage production or something like that for Live Nation, and he was the one who got me tickets to the George Michael concert that I went to in Dallas for the 25th year, and that place was popping, dude. That whole stadium was dancing, all right, including myself. But yeah, either way, he got me tickets to a few other concerts too, but he's the one who knew Rupert Murdoch and those types of connections. Anyways, so John, the Han, is kind of the sign of the coming, and that's the parable, the allegory, and the schizophrenics are attuners in a way for these spirits. They're kind of opened up in a way, and the spirits kind of reveal things through them, but we're taught of them as kind of crazy. And this is where it tells us that John, he had to live out in the wild, right? And he ate the locusts and honey, and that locust is, oh, son of a, like you hear the crazy people doing or whatever. There used to be a dude at Tom Thumb when I grew up, and he used to be the bagger, and he used to carry the groceries out or whatever. He was always talking to himself, all right? But he was functional or whatever. And anyways, there's a few schizophrenics, actually, where I grew up, working in the grocery stores. One store had a little retard boy, and then one had the schizophrenic dude, and then there was Lisa Barho's mom, where she would get into the pool. She got into the pool and everybody just scattered away from her and got out of the water a lot of times and shit like that. She wore like a muumuu into the water, and these people are just one of a kind back then in the old 80s. But we used to throw shit at them, and like it was like what you see in the movies. But it was a trip. Either way, so John, the sign of his coming, we're seeing different Johns in the news, all right? That's one way. And we're seeing the Vision Pro people, they're kind of walking around, their hands are all flaring around or whatever, right? And then the low-cuss people, like, man, I can't believe those sons of bitches are wearing those while they're driving, blah, 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 okay? And it's basically because they're acting out of ignorance because they haven't put on the $3,000 machine that allows you to drive and interact in this world while you have your desk around you, okay? And the Vision Pro is tying into the Visions unlocking, and Trump mentioned that he was pro-Vision a few weeks back or whatever. We mentioned that in a video and did post on it. But these are those things coming in, and then the technology's already there and been developed. It just has to be released, so it's all being released. And this is where the Vision Pro, they're coming out with your little walking pad. You can walk right in your living room, see the whole world around you, all right? That's what I told you was all coming out a couple years back, all right? So it's all being released, the new heaven and earth being opened up, and the people are being left behind, mainly because they don't understand it. They're calling their own kids a whole different breed. Okay, that's kind of fucked up a little bit. Or their grandchildren or whatever, right? I just don't understand these kids these days. Well, you're not trying to understand. All right, you're lifting yourself up by your own self-righteousness and all the shit that you were brainwashed, because you don't understand brainwashing to the basics. And that's where that generational curse comes on, and the generational sins, and either way. So put on the John, the Han. All these are the signs of the coming, and the Han is the China. All right. And then the in-ho J on the flip side. And that ho is Kamala and the women that's coming, and so this is just like symbolic things to give the people with the eyes and the ears, to let them know what's going on, to gather the body. All right. Otherwise, this is just going to fly over your head and sound like crazy shit. So, but it's meant to be that way. And that's why they tell you all of one side of story. That's why brainwashing is, and all this stuff is there to direct your focal points. Okay. And that's why everyone has been brainwashed to believe in this so-called rapture. All right. If you think about it, you think about the whole thing. All right. But mainly just the rapture, or like dead people rising up out of the ground. Okay. Those are two big ones that the Christians are like hard set on. If you think about that, it's completely crazy how everyone has accepted this lie that does not even exist in the Bible. Okay? And all things that are written must be fulfilled. Okay? We see heresy being fulfilled. The her I see. And as all words need to be fulfilled, there is something of a rapture. Okay? We need to understand this, because we're going to be going from one rapture to another rapture. And the rapture, so-called, is what marks that great tribulation kickoff. Okay? So the one rapture is going off, and it goes to another rapture. That other rapture is when the so-called aliens take the so-called elect, and they go missing, and it is not the church, and the church realizes they are left behind, and the narrative of the aliens beamed them up. And the way time is going, and the way the vision is breaking open, it seems that the aliens, the disc over everything, the mothership, whatever, and it could be the disc over everything first, and then the mothership appears 3.5 years later and comes down. It could be kind of that thing. Okay, one, the John or these types of things is a sign of the coming. So one brings the other. All right. Or it might just be the disc over everything, and then it goes from there to where the AI, the aliens, all this stuff is connected through the light, and we're a projection, blah, 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 and it starts the new heaven and earth, and a new truth is opened up to the world. Okay? But otherwise, the from one rapture to the other, when the so-called aliens take the people, or the people come up missing, or however it's going to work, okay? This would be the so-called rapture that the people are brainwashed to believe as the rapture, okay? And this is where Jesus, he goes up into heaven. And we've seen people that are taken up in different ways, or they're saved in different ways in the Old Testament. And then also through modern history, we see how people are saved in different ways. And where, like in Mesoamerica or whatever, they're wondering how these nations just disappeared overnight, or how they collapsed overnight, and all these different things. So this is where same thing's gonna be happening in these times. But this is gonna be kind of where everything is going into a whole new heaven and earth, because we're gonna be going into a spiritual heaven and earth and not a carnal. Right now we're under the Jew carnal curse, and we're going to be kind of going into the Greek in a matter of speaking, because one was based on carnality and one was based on spirituality. This is where the law is made for one, all right, but the other can use the law, or it's made for one first, right? It's made for the carnal man first, and then the spiritual man after that, okay? So, as one rapture happens, that is a timestamp for people, okay? And from one rapture to another rapture, this is when we gotta put this into another video, because this plays into the stuff that's going on with the Super Bowl and the things that's been going on in the news the past week or so, or whatever, when the time tunnel kind of stopped and then everything kind of broke open again. I mentioned in another video things were kind of weird for a week or two. Anyways, and then all of a sudden, just bam. So there's a bunch of stuff coming, and I gotta do a few videos. So we're gonna end it here and get more into the rapture stuff. But the different Johns, schizophrenics, that's a tuner. He was basically like a mild level, or whatever kind of level of a schizophrenic. They kicked him out of society. He lived out in the wild, the deserts, and those types of areas, and he ate on the locusts and honey, or he lived on the locusts and honey. And so that can be locusts and honey, and there's an allegory for that too, that locust. So this is where people are cussing at these people, and the people are reading these stories and they're getting pissed off and cussing to themselves, and whichever, all right? And either way.